Hi, my name is Hans Lesser, and in this session I will not be talking about risk management as such. What I will talk about is how to leverage the insights and techniques that we use in risk management to deal with one of the most costly and intensive processes most companies, or industrial companies at least, will have, that of capacity planning. A lot of things can be gained by using this. Looking at the agenda for this, I will start talking about capacity planning in brief just to make sure that we are all on the same page, and then talk a bit about grouping products and machines. Then we'll go into the data analytics, the modeling, and how to address this, how to leverage all the things that we're doing, and then look at further improvements. When we have done that, I will conclude, and finally, if you want to listen through the whole thing, I'll talk about who I am and why I have the audacity to believe that I can actually speak about these things. Looking at capacity planning in brief, it's all about resources. You look at the product demand, which you can measure in dollars or euros or any monetary things. You can also measure in pieces in some companies, that would be more likely. Then you have some key figures that translate product demand into equipment demand. Equipment, it could also be people, it could be anything, what you look at as a capacity group in your company. And based on that, you look at what is your capacity, how much do you have already, and what is utilization. And based on that utilization, you can make decisions on when you need to invest or when you can divest if there are equipment you don't need anymore or you don't need that much of. Now, this is a standard example, very briefly. There are 5 product types, A, B, C, D, and E, and equipment piece X, which for every month has some capacity requirement that comes out of it, a standard demand that is calculated. And as we can see, product line C doesn't use equipment X at all, so they come out as zeros. And we have a demand profile. We also know how many machines we have, how many production hours there are per machine per month. So we get a standard capacity and we can calculate a capacity load. As we can see, this is in general below 80%, or it's totally below 80%. So there needs to be no further equipment. Yet, as we will see later, there's a 36% likelihood we will be missing ability to meet demand in some of these later months. So the figure of capacity load is really not that interesting and not that telling, because it doesn't tell us when we will need and when we will not be able to deliver. Now, having done both capacity planning in my past and risk management, I actually have some issues with that kind of approach. Looking at how it's generally done, the forecasting, the demand planning, is based on an elaborate and detailed forecasting processes involving often a lot of people coming up with very detailed calculations and estimates of how much they will have. And then we look at taking this demand and putting it into an enterprise resource planning system that product by product, machine by machine, breaks it down into capacity need, and using tons of data of different things. We know intuitively and intellectually that these data are known to be uncertain. Yet forecasts and capacity profiles are very often based on single point estimates. The only way we address uncertainty is that subsequently we look into the capacity profile and say, okay, 80% utilization is not really that safe. We are often in trouble when we hit 80 or something like that. And it's simply not effective. Effective uncertainty-based decision making is not applied at all. We do not look at and address the uncertainties. We do not embed them in this. And this is what we want to do when we're looking at the approach that I suggest here. As risk managers, we know we can improve on this. We know that we can calculate and leverage a more valid capacity profile and investment requirement plan than what comes out of these single point estimates. We've seen this number of times in projects and other issues where we deal with uncertainties. This is what we do. This is what we can know, what we know, and what we can deliver to the planning team. The strategy that we will apply is that we will look at analyze, recognize all the uncertainties that are there, the uncertainty on the demand, the uncertainty on key figures, the uncertainty of capacity, and apply that. We will also apply a targeted delivery service. If we wish to be 90% certain, it doesn't matter that we have a 67% utilization. We want to be 90% certain we can deliver. What does the tail mean? We do that by modeling using Monte Carlo simulation, and then we calculate a capacity profile and investment needs that we can use. So it's all about leveraging the insights and the techniques that we are using in a lot of other instances here in capacity planning and help our colleagues. The first step is data analytics. Now, in a lot of decisions and a lot of approaches and changes that companies are making, data can be elusive and they can be hard to find and they can be very vague or some kind. Here we have tons of data. We have planned, forecasted, and actual sales figures from years going back, from markets, from regions, from everywhere. We have capacity demand key figures of how much capacity requirement is needed for a given $1 million sales. We have those, and we have tons of those. We have equipment uptime and capacity figures. We have all of those. So why not leverage them? And that is what we will do by doing some capacity or uncertainty analytics on them. In this case, we have product A sales. These are dummy figures, of course, but we have a planned sales and an actual sales. And based on these, we simply calculate an AP factor, actual divided by planned. If it's below 1, A, then sales or demand was not what we expected, and if it's above, it's higher than expected. And we calculate this and look at what's the profile. Now, leveraging the tools that are in Model Risk from VOS or At Risk from Palisades, we can easily do this. We can easily make the analysis and see what is the uncertainty around this. In this case, it appears that the best assumption or the best distribution is a Pearson 5, whatever that may be. It doesn't mean a whole lot of me, but there's also a log normal, or you can change it to anything else. You pick out, why not just pick the best one? And then you discuss the outcome with the planning team. It's very important to make their buy-in, not necessarily to the use of distribution, which is not very discussing and very important, but it's about the uncertainties that you find. At least I have found that these were some surprises. If you look at the distribution I came up with, the dummy numbers here, the 10th percentile is a 0.828, which means that there's 17% below planned. That's a 10% chance actual demand will be 17% below what you expect. There's also almost a 70% chance it'll be higher than, it'll be more than, the 10% chance will be more than 17% above what you plan. So you have this plus minus 17% uncertainty. And that's a lot to plan for. But it gets even worse. I've seen fast-moving consumer goods where this was plus minus 30% on a single theme or a single product line. And that makes it absolutely necessary that we address this and we do this effectively. So the first step of the modeling then is then model demand. And in this case, we have a planned sales of 100 in January of product A, that's fine. But we know that there's a plus minus 30% uncertainty, which is shown in line 12, the 70, 100, 130. This is the uncertainty that we have measured our way through for product A, for forecasting product A. And here, as you can see above, I've just used a triangular distribution. This is rarely true. This is rarely valid, but it's very easy to explain and has its benefits from there. So what I do is I simply calculate the demand, and then I have this uncertainty between 70 and 130%, which means that in this particular case, this particular scenario, January sales comes out with 97. For product B, January sales comes out with 216, slightly above the target or the demanded value or the forecasted value. Comes out slightly different here and slightly different there in every simulation. And that's the beauty of it, because we can then leverage these simulations. The same approach can be used for modeling the key figures. And let's not always look at product A and equipment X. So let's take a look at product B and equipment Z. Here there's a minimum demand of 22 hours for each million. There's most likely 30, and it could be 35. Here again, you have the distribution of how to leverage that. And you can also do it on equipment downtime, looking at, okay, let's go back to product X. They will have an average 5 breakdowns in a month. And there will be a duration that is minimum 5 hours, probably 24, could be as high as 96. Now, this way, we can model our way out of the needs and the capacity needs that we will have. Now comes the modeling phase where we leverage all the things and the data and the uncertainties that we have found. We're looking at equipment X, fine, and the different product groups. From sales, we have the simulation of the volatility and look at the volatility of the sales. So we have that. And then we have a triangular distribution on the capacity key figures that tells us how many hours we each need per million, and then multiplied by the millions, come out with how many hours we will need for that particular product group in that particular month on equipment X. This is not done anywhere else. Also, we can look at breakdown hours because breakdowns and capacity stoppages are a problem. And we use the Poisson distribution to say, okay, with 5 breakdowns in a month, we will have that many in a distribution. It could be 1 in some months, it could be 9 and 10 in others. We wouldn't know, but here we can simulate that. And then we use the triangular distribution to tell us how long these breakdowns will be, and that is how much capacity we will actually then get out of it. By dividing the demand with the capacity, we get the utilization load, which in this case is 77% in March. And that's nice. But it is also somewhat arbitrary. It is also somewhat irrelevant because what is the average? I mean, it doesn't mean much. Averages are very alluring and very simple to explain and very nice, but they are often wrong. Maybe that's why they call them the mean values. Anyways, we're not interested in the averages. We're interested in having a delivery certainty of 90% as explained on the top right corner. And to do that, we use a formula that is based both in model risk and in ad risk. You can also use other tools. What's the 90th percentile capacity load? In this case, it's 92%, it's not 82. 82 is the average. 92 is a 90th percentile of capacity load. So we will still be able to deliver on this period of time. In fact, there's only a 2% chance, as we can see the numbers slightly hidden below, a 2% chance that we will not be able to deliver the full demand. And this is important because now when you look at the fourth quarter, there's 101, 107, 113% capacity load as a 90th percentile, which means that we will not be able to meet a 90% certainty of delivery. We can also look at the non-delivery risk and looking at, okay, now we will not be able to deliver whatsoever. In October, it's 11%. In December, there's a 36% risk that we will not be able to meet demand. If you remember from one of the first slides we presented, these are the same numbers as the standard calculation that said, hey, we have an 80% utilization. There is no need for more equipment. Yes, there is a need for more equipment, as we will see in this one. So when we address the outcome, and these are just the same numbers going in the table, we see now that we need to invest in the fourth quarter. We need to add a machine to 55 in October, 4 more in November to 59, and 3 more in December to 62 in order to keep the 90th percentile load below 100%. And that way we will also get a non-delivery risk, which is less than 10%, which was the targeted. This result cannot come out of any single point estimate process that you will have. It doesn't matter how fast or moving or detailed or whatnot you have a process, it will not materialize. You can't do that. This is the only way that you can calculate this. And it is important when you have a 90% delivery certainty. Now just imagine you want a 95 or a 99 certainty. The more volatility, the more precision you will have, the more excess capacity you will need or ability to maneuver you will need, and you can only be told this way. Now, my intention with this session is just to give you a hint of how you can vastly improve your capacity planning by leveraging the skills you have as a risk manager. It is not about giving a masterclass in capacity planning. So there are a number of further improvements I have not embedded in this, deliberately have not embedded, but we could add on it. We can embed an inventory profile and say you have 1 month or 2 months of supply on stock all the time. How would that change your investment profile? And you can add inventory policies of about minimum and maximum inventory levels and stuff like that in order to be able more accurately to calculate what your uncertainty will be and what your capacity profile will be. You can also differentiate between delivery service between different product lines. Think that some of them will be 90, others it's okay with 80% deliveries. And there could even be somewhere we say, okay, we would deliver what we can and we don't care about the rest. That would be nice and easy, but your customers may not be that happy. Further, you can embed risks and opportunities. There can be specific risks, different risks, a strike or anything else that you can embed into this and see how would that affect your decisions. And then you can start analyzing and embedding correlations. If product line A goes up, does that mean C goes down? Or do we have a correlation that's positive or negative between those? If March is high, will April be low or April be higher? Those kind of things. You can analyze your data, you can get more insights, and you can vastly train and improve what you're doing. Your job as a risk manager in this is not to do capacity planning. You don't know much about capacity planning. Other people are much better at that. But what you can do is you can be a valuable partner to the planning team. You can help them do the analytics, you can help them understand the volatilities, you can help them build the modeling, and you're working with the modeling for them so that they can come up with better capacity plans. After all, that is the purpose. This is not about risk management. This is about company performance on a very important process of capacity planning. Now, summing up on the whole thing, just to take the simple part of it, capacity planning is a vital decision process used in most industrial companies. This is where they decide what to invest. These are often costly decisions to make. Still, it is very often elaborately leading to an extremely detailed single point estimate. And as risk managers, you know single point estimates are not valid. They will never materialize. And oddly enough, even the most elaborate capacity planning system does not tell you when to invest and when to divest. Not directly anyway. You have to use your experience and your insights and your mental capacity to figure out what we're going to do afterwards. Why? As a risk manager, you're the expert on uncertainties and dealing with uncertainties. You know how to make data analytics. You know how to use Monte Carlo simulation, at least I hope you do. So you can help the planning team. Give them the tools, give them the understanding, give them the processes of how to do this. Don't give them the results. They're much better at that, and it's so much more motivating for them to come up with it themselves once they have seen how this can be done. So what you should do is to liaise and collaborate with the capacity planning team, the people involved already, and let them be the winning team. The purpose is to leverage intelligent risk-taking. And don't worry, the organization will know about your contribution as time goes by. This is a win-win situation. You help them and you promote intelligent risk-taking throughout your company, and that makes you a better risk manager. Now, of course, you've been through the whole thing, but who am I to talk about this? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the insights to do this? And yes, I believe I do. For one thing, I spent 13 years as a Lego Group manufacturing capacity planner. Capacity planning in a toy company where half of demand is for Christmas and all of it is for children who doesn't understand the concept of brand loyalty, but wants what is talked about in school, and where volatilities on demand goes up and down like crazy. That is complicated, and I learned a lot from that, from doing this. I also learned that we need to find better ways of doing it. Then I spent 13 years in other LEGO Group functions, including IT, strategic planning, finance, and product development. That has nothing much to do with this, but the last 10 years I spent as head of LEGO Group Strategic Risk Management, where I started working with uncertainties. Yes, I did an ERM program. Yes, I did some project management. Yes, I did this and that strategic planning as well. I also tried to pay my way into decision processes like capacity planning or sales and operation planning as it was. And I did get them to work more actively with it. Today, I'm an independent consultant and I am perfectly willing to help you at a fee, of course. So the question is to you is now, are you ready to truly affect decision making in your company? Thank you. This is about what I had. The model will be available for you, the reference model, and these slides, of course, will be available at the end of this. Thank you.